Tony Will. I am so excited to be here with my podcast guest. And I realize as I listen back to my podcast, I say this about every single guest, but I truly mean it every time because I have the coolest people in my life. And you're going to get to meet one of my favorites today. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women in all walks of life and the people in their lives who are lifting them up. You will hear from all kinds of super cool people, as I just mentioned, in my life, and they're going to share their stories to inspire others to support all the extraordinary women around them. This is a space to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. I'm passionate about breaking down barriers for my kids' generation. It's equal parts about my guests and the places where we came into each other's lives, whether it be the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or they happen to be in my family and friends circle. And this guest, like many, fall into many of these categories. I would say specifically the Kalamazoo Wings, which you'll hear more about. And then we're definitely friends. We've built a friendship over the years too. Head coach of the Kalamazoo Wings and director of hockey operations, Joel Martin. But let me read his bio. I'm going to read a little bit of the longer bio because Joel is so humble, and I want to brag on him a little bit. But Joel, this is going to be question/reading. Is this your fourth season as head coach we're coming to, or third?
This will be my third, yeah.
All right, third season as head coach and director of hockey operations for the K-Wings, with the previous 3 spent as the team's assistant coach. This follows a playing career that spanned 15 seasons across all levels of professional hockey. On January 18th, 2021, Martin was inducted into the ECHL Hall of Fame. Joel is no stranger to Kalamazoo as the former player, assistant, now head coach who played 9 seasons for the K-Wings, retiring after the 17-18 season. Currently, Joel ranks number 1 in ECHL history for career 30-plus wins, is 5th in the ECHL for career wins, which is 200, and he put together the 3rd best season by any ECHL goaltender, posting 36 victories in the 15-16 season. And Joel resides in Kalamazoo with his wife Caroline and his sons Louis and Thomas. And I am just so excited to do this kind of work together because we do all kinds of other work together day to day. So hi.
Hey, well, I'm excited as well, so thank you for having me on.
Okay, so the first question, and I don't even know the answer to this because I couldn't remember, but how did you and I meet? Do you remember when you and I met?
So I was still playing when you first joined the organization there. So I don't remember the first initial meeting. I remember seeing you on the ice doing your thing there and working and just being involved. So that's kind of how our relationship started. So it was really I think professional both ways, you being in the front office, me being a player. So there was a mutual respect there where it started.
Yeah, and I was thinking about that. I'm like, because I always think about this question, when did Joel come into my life? And I have this poster up on my wall. It's actually a schedule, but it's you're the model.
Yeah.
He's in his goaltender gear, everyone. So
team picture.
I love that photo shoot, by the way. That was from the 16-17 season.
Okay.
You remember doing that?
I do remember doing that in the summer. I had shoes on, and then I had my equipment on upstairs. I do.
But it turned out so good. Like, you're a natural at hockey modeling. Is that a thing?
No, they can do all sorts of things with photography nowadays and make things look cooler than they are and people better than they are.
So you know this because, well, the world knows this. I came into this job almost 10 years ago with no hockey background, no knowledge, I'll be honest, not a lack of appreciation, but I don't know, I just was like, I have a job to do here. I need to get butts in the seats, and the players are doing their thing. I have a lot to learn, and I remember watching you play, and I'm like, man, this guy can do the splits really good. And I don't, it was fascinating to learn. But what I loved about you, Joel, back in the playing days, when I think about it and remember it, is just you were so hardworking, so humble, and you were very quiet. And then everyone told me that goalies are weird. And I didn't know what to make of all that. But then when I started to get to know you, I'm like, he's not weird. He's super normal. So,
I appreciate that. And yeah, I definitely, have gotten feedback that I am on the quieter side, and I think that's why, my better half, Caroline, is a good partner for me because she's super outgoing. And so we're a good partnership that way.
So why, tell me, and everyone that is hockey novices, I'm not a novice anymore, but why do goalies have that reputation for being weird?
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, stand in front of pucks that sometimes come at you 100 miles an hour, is one thing. So I think they think who would want to do that, for one. And two, like there's a lot of pressure at that position. I mean, a lot of fingers pointed at you. If a puck goes in the net, whether it's your fault or not. So again, who wants to do that? And then it seems like goalies can kind of be in their own world. They spend a lot of time on the ice in the net by themselves, and some of them have some weird quirks and different things and routines that they follow. I think I was fairly normal when it came to routine and different things like that, but some people might tell you different.
What were some of your routines? Were you the goalie that was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at a certain time before? I can't remember if that was you or someone else.
No, I didn't do that. I was juggling a lot all the time, juggling 3 balls, throwing them off the walls. That'd probably be one that sticks out the most to a lot of people that were around when I was playing. And then something that wasn't necessarily part of my routine, but my feet always froze on the ice. So in between periods, I would take hot packs from the hydroculator and put them on my skates in between periods to try and warm up my toes every game, every period.
Really? So
Yeah.
you and I have a lot in common. My feet would freeze when I was doing my Ironmans. Like when I would ride on my bike for 100 plus miles, they would do that. So it's a circulation thing. Did you get it checked out?
I didn't. And, I figured part of it would be maybe circulation, and part of it too could be just sweating and sweat dripping down into your skates, and then you're in a cold environment. And now sometimes it happens in my dress shoes. If I wear a pair that my feet sweat a little bit, I'll notice that my feet are getting cold. So, but maybe something I need to look into further. I'm not sure.
So I was at the, it was so cool when you were inducted in the ECHL Hall of Fame. I was there. And I got to celebrate that with your family and you and the entire league. And it was so awesome. And you're an amazing goaltender. What do you attribute your success in goaltending to? So basically what I'm asking is why were you so good at it?
That's a great question. I think, you touched on being a hard worker, and I think that's something that I always, prided myself on. And I don't think I was always the most talented goaltender, and especially growing up, like I didn't play at the highest levels all the time, and I wasn't the most touted goaltender in junior hockey. And I just believed in myself and kept working extremely hard, and had a ton of people along the way that helped me and allowed me to grow in that position. And then I think I was really fortunate, to play for some really good teams too. And I think that attributed a lot to my success, especially being in Kalamazoo and playing for a lot of really good teams here. That can really help you look good when you have, a bunch of guys in front of you doing a job.
I just realized I have more than one picture of you up in my office. So it's good thing Caroline and Josh know that we're definitely like work husband and wife. But I've got you on my wall over here, and then I've got a picture of you with the family. What was that night? 197. That was when you broke the franchise record for goals saved.
Yeah, for wins.
Wins.
Yeah, for wins. So, we'll have to get a picture of you down here then as well, if you have two.
Yeah, wait a minute. Do you have any pictures of me on your desk?
I don't, so you'll have to, gift one to me or something for Christmas.
Oh my gosh. So you talk about the people that kind of helped you along the way in your career, and you already brought up your fabulous wife. Caroline, I'm coming for you on this podcast, girl, because I know you're listening when I publish this, and she knows because I've been bringing it up to her, texting her. But talk about the people. I mean, the story of you two and how she followed you, and her parents were like, "What are you doing?" And I just love that because as parents, you and I are parents now. my kids are older, I'd be doing the same thing. Why are you following this pro hockey player around your nuts? And look at you guys now. But who, Caroline included, who are the women in your life that have been instrumental in where you're at?
Yeah, it starts with my mom for sure. Growing up, she's the one who introduced me to hockey. She had a ton of older brothers that played. My dad wasn't an athlete, and she introduced me to the game, coached me originally when I first played. And then growing up, when I started to get to a higher level, and then of course I chose to be a goaltender, which is, not the cheapest position in hockey to play when it comes to buying equipment and different things. And she, helped me raise money so I could continue to play at high level and buy the equipment that I needed. So, getting up in the morning before school, helping me shovel sidewalks. In the summer, stand there right beside me, helping me mow lawns. And of course, I'd always be complaining. I remember her kicking me out of the car once on the way home after complaining about mowing a lawn, and I had to walk home. But she's the one, that got me started, that helped me through it. So a ton of appreciation goes to her, for sure. Drove me to a ton of hockey, growing up. My sisters as well, have been my number one fans. My sister Toby drove me to a ton of my hockey practices when I ended up playing AAA and having to leave town to do that and drive, just over an hour, I think, to practice twice a week and then games. And she was old enough where she had her license, so could alleviate some of that pressure from my parents and drive me to practices. And then my sister Jana, my oldest sister, I used to go to Calgary to the city because we didn't have ice and where I grew up in the small town of Three Hills, Alberta. And I would go stay with her in her apartment and train in the city, and then, my wife, she's been my number one supporter over, the past number of years. And, really, her, she's a hype girl. So
She's the best hype girl ever.
Yeah, ever, right? So she's been super encouraging for me and allowing me to chase my dream and encouraging me to do that and, just supporting me that way. So I would say those four for sure are 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, and I often laugh because of how much we have in common. I'm like, your sister's name is Toby, and I'm Tony, and it just never ends. Although you're Canadian and I'm American, but
Yeah, well, I'm a dual citizen. I was born in the States, actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
I still hear the Canadian accent just a little bit.
Yeah.
Once in a blue moon. It's like when you come back from a trip up north.
Yeah, well, and my wife is always on me and saying how she misses my Canadian accent.
Yeah, it was probably a turn on.
For sure.
I'll ask her that when I finally get her on.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, diversity, equity, inclusion. You've heard those 3 words come out of my mouth probably more times than you care to, but it's something I'm super passionate about. And I talk about, like, when I speak about my job, when I walked through these doors 10 years ago, I came here because I love a challenge. I had no clue what I was doing in terms of professional sports, but I knew how to run a business. I knew the community. I knew how to build a brand, but I didn't kick down the door, rip off my bra, light it on fire, and say, "Woman, hear me roar." That's not what it was about. And in fact, it was about 3 years in when I looked up and thought, "Oh, I'm a minority in this space," in terms of the board of governors and other GMs and all that. And then, when I look at the ice and I'm starting to pay more attention, I'm like, wow, there's a bunch of white dudes out here, and Joel. So if you all are not watching this and you're listening, Joel is Black, African. How do you identify? Black.
Yeah.
Joel's a Black guy. And I'm like, that. And he's a goalie. So he's a minority in 2 ways.
Yeah, that's true.
So I want to talk about that because there's so much here. But let's talk about being a Black guy in a white sport. What was that like for you growing up?
Yeah, I think there was times growing up where, I knew that I was different, but was surrounded by good people So I didn't feel like I was different or out of place. And then there was some times where I went through some discrimination and some hate, and then you're kind of alone in that. So, I think for the most part, hockey, has been a fairly inclusive sport and is continuing to trend that direction and grow for sure. But I think I was kind of in both situations throughout my days growing up playing the game.
I had to text the guys out there because they're being loud.
Huh.
So I
Well,
said
enough
quiet on
right
the
now.
set.
Yeah.
And we're going to leave this in the podcast because this is what we deal with, bunch of loud guys. Did you find it motivational? Did it make you work harder, do you think?
No, I don't. I don't think so. There was a point where I did almost quit hockey when I was younger, where I was getting picked on and bullied, and I was like, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. And I ended up kind of being talked out of it from my mom and one of my coaches there. So I don't think it did. I think if anything, it just made me want to be a little more inclusive, with teammates, whatever that was, and just trying to involve everybody and help me grow empathy, I think, for people and whatever they're going.
Yeah, you're really good at that. I have to come to you sometimes and say, hey, I need you to help me. Because I have a lot of empathy on certain things, but there are certain things where I don't. And then I'm like, Joel, I'm coming to you. And I'll be like, what do you think? And I mean, I have like this board of directors in my life, and where I go to certain people who I really respect, and you're definitely one of them, especially because Joel, just so everyone is aware, in our jobs, Joel and I are peers. And so I want to make it really clear. He does not report to me. I didn't say you have to come on my podcast, but we are partners in the K-Wings. So he runs the hockey operations side, everything on the ice, and I'm everything off the ice. And that's how we operate the Kalamazoo Wings. So we are definitely partners. And you've always been really supportive of me. And when I said, okay, like I'm a female GM, you're a black head coach, especially when you were promoted to being a head coach. And I'm like, I am really proud of this. And like small Kalamazoo, out of 29 teams in ECHL, we're the 28th in terms of population, only beating Wheeling, West Virginia, out by maybe 1,000 people population wise. And we're so forward thinking. We support diversity, equity, inclusion because you and I represent that in our roles. So when I came to you and I said, here's what I'm thinking of, and then I keep expanding it. My team keeps expanding it out beyond Rainbow Ice, and we did a deaf awareness game, we did Alzheimer's awareness, we do Black Excellence game, Empower Her. Some of those are being rebranded from last year. How did you feel about all that? And with the enthusiasm and drive that I have, where I'm like, I want to do this, and I want you to come with me.
Yeah, no, well, I think, you touched on it about being an empathetic person, and I think we're pretty aligned a lot of times when you come to me with things, and you're like, okay, good. I just wanted to, see that you're on the same page. And I think that when it comes to inclusion and just people in general, we're very aligned on that view. And then there's other certain bullshit that, we don't have any patience for. So we don't just lay down and accept everything. But I think there's just a certain way that you need to treat people in life. And I think we're very aligned on that and really wanting everybody that comes in contact with us or our organization to feel welcomed. And that's something that, I really cherish about how you do your job and what you believe in.
Yeah, because it's funny how, it was such a great description because, what came to mind, and I'm always learning, like, about this job, and there's in my opinion, there's no right or wrong way to do it. I know the season ticket holders might think otherwise, or for you too, because you and I get lit up on social media. You and I do. And I'll come to you. See, you're smart. You don't read it.
No.
I'm not. And then you get Josh Will on it, And but you and I get lit up. Like, people call for our jobs at least 2 or 3 times a season, and that really bothers me because I'm like, you don't really know us or know what we're doing or know. And I get lit up because of the diversity, equity, inclusion piece. Yours is always around if we're on a losing, if we
Sure.
lose or whatever, which is normal, right?
Yeah.
So, but the reason I talk about this learning piece and why Joel is so someone that lifts me up as a woman, because you are definitely someone that lifts me up and what I'm trying to accomplish, is I've been working. I have certain goals around. I want to be down in the locker room more, and these are Tony things. And so I come down, even with my stupid broken ankle last year, and you helped me. The guys helped me because it's hard to get down there in this building, y'all.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time with you guys, and you and I have been working on the upstairs and downstairs really becoming even more cohesive than we already are, because it truly is a team. But it's we operate differently in the sense. I mean, it's a business up here, and downstairs you guys are. It's a sport, and so I say that but to people who aren't in it, it can be very different. You guys are on the road. And then we're at home, and then you guys are coming back and playing, and we're setting up for the game. And we live in very similar but different worlds, both in and off season. And so this is very long-winded for me to say this. Vulnerability is very hard for me in this part of my career. And this year, I went into the locker room when we were in the playoffs, and you know where I'm going with this because you lived it with me. And we lost in round one. And I've never gone into the locker room after a loss or being knocked out of playoffs. I'm walking in off the ice, and someone from the stands yells, "Tony, you suck," screams it. Okay? I'm already emotional because I can feel your energy across the ice. And I know how, and it's not just you, but the coaching staff. Like, this is emotional. And I've always turned that part of my brain off. The vulnerability part and the human element to this. And I walked in the locker room after hearing I suck, I brushed that off. It was kind of funny, and then you're in the locker room. You guys are crying. The coaches are crying. I'm crying, and it was just such a cool moment because I got to be Tony, and you were Joel, and I got it. Like, I understood, and I called you the next day. Mm-hmm. Still crying. Yeah. And I got it. So when I say it, what is that? What am I describing? What is the light bulb that went off for me? How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that, we try to build down here is family, and trying to align with you and have that synergy with the upstairs is part of building that family as well. That culture within the entire organization, right? We're all part under the same umbrella. So once you start to become that family and you start to go through things together, you start to feel what other people are feeling, So when you're being attacked by fans and you're having a tough time and you come to me, like, I feel that, because you're part of our family, and you see us lose and the pain that causes us. Well, now we're part of the family, and you feel that in a different way probably than you ever have, So, you want to be more involved down here and see that side of it. I say it all the time. I have all the time in the world for, players or staff members or people of our organization that want to grow and develop and learn different parts of the business. I got all the time in the world for that. So, I think that's the it factor. When you have a family, you have something special in this business.
Yeah, that's it. See, I knew you'd have the words. And I struggle. Like, it doesn't come naturally to me. And I just love that I'm growing in that space, and you're helping me do that, whether you know it or not. And so I tell you on this podcast, so you know. But I think I told you that day.
And too, for your job too, I feel like a lot of it is like looking at numbers and, how many butts do we have in the seats? What kind of, ads are we selling and advertisement? And, then to add the piece of, well, it's not just numbers, it's people, and our players and, people's lives, it's a part of it. So, that's probably the biggest difference.
Yeah, you're right, because it is. I still do this. I come down there and I'm like, hey, we're going to have 5,000 people in the building tonight. Like I always go to the numbers.
Yeah.
So I need to
Which,
start coming
which
down
we
there and tell
love.
you how I feel.
Yeah. 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 No, we love it when you do, crush the numbers and you fill this building up. There's not a better place to play in the league when this thing's rocking.
So speaking of that, and I barely ask questions on the script, but but I want to ask one more because you played on colored ice, and I get this question of, you had retired by time we had done rainbow ice, so you haven't played on rainbow ice.
Mm-hmm.
But what is it like to play on the colored ice surfaces that you have played on over the years?
Yeah, you know what? A lot of them aren't too bad. I think that typically we keep the orange and the green fairly light. There's some of the purple that we've done that can get a little dark sometimes. It can be a little tough as a goaltender to see the puck in those until the ice gets chewed up a little bit and there's some snow that's built up. We did the one where fans could come, I think it was Kids Club, and write all over the ice. And I know the first time we did that, it was the entire sheet of ice, and that was really difficult to try to find the puck in that. But I really enjoyed it. Like I said, anytime we get a lot of people in this building, it's so much fun to play in front of or coach in, and so it does that for us. It brings people in, so that's fun. Sometimes it's just a fun cause that we're doing it for, like orange ice with Halloween, and then you have pink ice and cancer awareness, and there's a huge cause behind it. So I really enjoy them. It's a lot of fun to be a part of them, and whether it's a fun cause or a deep cause, it's a lot of fun.
We sometimes struggle winning on colored ice. Well, no, it's usually like pink ice. Not to bring up a sore subject, but we got one, it wasn't last season, but season before we got shut out. And I'm like, so it's like a joke up here. And we'd always lose on Education Day. That's not a colored ice game, guys. That's when all the like field trip, and we'd always lose.
Well, I'm glad you got rid of those, and I guess I hate colored ice, and we should get rid of all of them, and if that's the case.
And you know what? I don't pay attention to wins and losses all that much. I mean, I do, but I understand we have a long frickin' season. So just so
Sure.
everyone knows, and then I'm going to ask you about work-life balance, which is actually one of the questions, because women get asked this question all the time. How do you balance work and life and, blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to ask you this question because speaking of the long season, so we start in October, but I mean, off season's a whole other thing, which I can ask you about that too, because I get asked about off season all the time where everyone thinks we're just cold chilling at home, which is hilarious. But we open in October. Regular season goes all the way through till April. 72 games, 36 at home, 36 on the road. That's just in season. We have 2 preseason games before that, so now we're up to 74 games, and then we go into the postseason, which could be 8 more weeks, and we go all the way to win the Kelly Cup. That takes us to mid-June. So if all goes the way we want, October to mid-June, that's a lot of hockey. So how do you balance, how have you over the years, and I'd love to know if it was different as a player than as a coach, do you balance your job and then your marriage and you being a dad and being a friend and all the things? Like, how do you do it? And do you believe in work-life balance? Because maybe we start there, because some people don't believe in that.
Yeah, no, I think it's super important for sure to separate the two, have a healthy mix and try to be balanced. And it certainly was different as a player. Like as a player, you're only worried about yourself. Now I have an entire staff, entire roster of players. Abbotsford, you're getting a phone call from them at any time of the day to get a player. And, so it's certainly different, that's for sure. I think, balancing the work part of it, part of that for me is surrounding yourself with good people, so I've had Ben and Cole here for a couple of years and Cody and Austin, and they're awesome at what they do. So that allows the work side to go a little bit easier and to share the workload. And, I think when it comes to the life side of things, my wife, like my kids both play hockey, travel hockey. So she carries a lot of that load, when I can be there, I'll be there and I'll take them, or get home, 5 in the morning and then drive them to a game Sunday morning or whatever. but, I need a good partner in that to be able to help out with that balance. And then I think the other part of that for me is trying not to take work home, one, emotionally. I think that's really important. Like, that I don't come home and be a rotten husband or a rotten father because we lost, that's something that my kids and wife don't understand. And then if I do have work to do, trying to do it when my kids go to bed, so they go to bed. Now I can open the computer, I can put in some work, or I can come in early in the morning. And that's kind of how I try and balance it, I guess.
There's a lot going on in the concourse over here. So,
You can hear that. Oh my.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, you might have to step out and bust some heads.
Yeah. Hey, GM's working over here. It's probably the donut cart. They're getting it ready for the fall.
I was doing an interview earlier, and I had the forklift buzzing back and forth for a little bit. So.
If one more thing's dropped, I'm going out. But that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
It's like, so do I believe, so if I were asked a question about work-life balance, I decided that I don't believe in it anymore.
Okay.
Because you know why? Because I'm not good at it.
Yeah, fair.
But I always strive to spend more time with my family, and you and I talked about that at the end of last season too, like just being so fortunate to have the spouses we do that support us is just, we couldn't be as good as we are at our jobs without Caroline and Josh.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, trying to reciprocate and support back, my wife started her flower business, and obviously busy in the summer, right? So now it's my opportunity to try to step up and carry a little bit more at home, and cook more, and, take care of the boys when I can, and different things like that. So it goes both ways for sure.
Yeah, I love seeing the picture on Facebook. You were helping her plant her garden, and she took a picture and put it on Facebook, and it was dark, and it was a long day, or I can't remember how she phrased it, but it's for those that have the privilege of knowing you and Caroline, that picture spoke 1,000 words about how supportive you are of each other in what you're passionate about.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, it's something that she, has grown to just absolutely love. So, I mean, is flowers and gardening my cup of tea? No, I wouldn't have a garden, by any means. If I had my own space to do it, I wouldn't do it, but she loves to do it. And so in turn, I've learned to kind of love it and help out any way that I can, whether that's rototilling the gardens to start the season, or help her pull weeds. I made the boys come, to the farm and pull weeds the one night, and it might have been, detrimental to, the success of that, dealing with them fighting with each other and not, necessarily getting a ton of work done, but trying to teach them too, right? That this is something that matters to your mom, so you support her doing that. And two, you got to get off your butt and stop watching YouTube shorts and get out of the house and do some work too.
Yeah, and they're going to remember that, right? I mean, just like you're talking about the stuff with your mom and how she had you walk home and all those things that were like, or shoveling, and like you remember those fondly now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're doing the same for your boys.
Yeah, so they need to do more, but in time. They're still small, but in time.
They do. We're going to have them listen to this.
Yeah.
Thomas Lewis, you need to do more work.
Yeah.
You and I both like to read. What are you reading right now?
Yeah, so I'm just coming to the end of Open, an autobiography by Andre Agassi. And I've really enjoyed, one of the greatest tennis players to ever play the game. And so just an elite athlete, was at the top of his sport, fell to 100 and something in the world. Clawed his way back up to, number one in the world, and played till a really late age. But the thing I love about it is if you ask Andre Agassi, he will tell you that he hates tennis. And he said it his entire life. And people would always be like, yeah, okay, no. And he's like, no, I hate tennis. So, from a coach's perspective, understanding that Like, you might never know how a player feels inside about something or about the sport they're playing, and might even be dominating for whatever that reason is. I think it was for him a little bit with his upbringing and the way that his dad made him train from a young age, to the boarding school he had to go to, and just the pressures of the sport. So just kind of seeing that view, I mean, I think as a coach, maybe you have a different view in mind of somebody who might hate the sport, somebody who's not feeling like they're getting enough opportunity, or, they're not scoring the way they feel like they should. They're not the elite player they are. But no, even somebody who can be the best in the world for a period of time and hate what they're doing, and really understand as a coach, like, you have to try to have a pulse on that with athletes, and how they feel.
Do you think you've had any players that have played for you that hate what they're doing?
Oh, I know I have. Yeah, 100%. And I've had players say it to me, and yeah, so absolutely.
Yeah, so that book would be really beneficial, just to learn and grow in your own career, and help you be better at what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And just an interesting story too, and a great read. I highly recommend it, whether you're a fan of tennis or you're not, or you're a coach or you're not. I mean, he lived a crazy lifestyle, and he was sometimes, the outcast in the sport as well, with his long hair and the clothes that he wore and the jean shorts when he was playing tennis. So it's really good read. So I think that it's beneficial from a learning standpoint, and it's also very entertaining.
I'm going to go out in the hallway right now and ask them to be
Okay.
quiet real quick.
Okay.
So, podcast listeners, hang tight.
Time out.
Hey guys, I'm recording something here. Could you be a little quiet? Thank you. I'll just be a little bit, but thank you. Did you hear me?
No, I couldn't hear it.
I'll have Tim cut from 36 minutes. Okay, they were very accepting. Okay, so one of the things I'm passionate about, and talk very openly about, is that I stopped drinking alcohol almost 4 years ago, in October 2020. And I don't remember how this went down, but tell me if I think this is what I remember. I think you texted me and said, "Hey, I stopped drinking shortly after you." Is that what happened?
I think maybe, I don't remember, maybe when you hit one of your anniversaries or something, I was like, oh yeah, I did too, or something, or like, I'm behind you a little bit. So, yeah, I gave it up as well.
Yeah, you were just 3 months ish, about three, because you stopped
Yeah,
January.
like January 1st. Yeah. It was
Yeah,
a
and I
New
stopped
Year's.
October 12th of 2020. And I was like, well, because we were in the early days, like, yeah, maybe I hit a year and you had told me. And then I remember telling you, I'm like, well, I launched this business and I sent you the website. And just because I knew, like, I always got excited when there were people around me that were willing to, like, talk to me about, regardless of why they stopped drinking. I just thought it was cool. And so you told, and then we just both kept going, and we're both still non-drinkers. And what's also cool is our broadcaster and PR director, Chris, who works with both of us, he doesn't drink. And we've got this little, like, tribe, like, we're the cool people who don't drink. But so I asked Joel off air, are you okay with talking about this? And he was like, yeah. So tell me what it's like. It's Our world is like, we are surrounded by alcohol, like,
Yeah.
all the time. But it's a choice, right? Like, I don't even see it anymore, in the sense that it's not important to me. So what has it been like for you, in the 3.5, almost 4 years you've chosen to stop drinking?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just been really refreshing, to be honest. Like you, it's not something I care about anymore. And, so I don't really see it at all. And I'm just not really in situation. I find that I don't put myself in situations, that maybe I used to, where, they just aren't appealing to me anymore, So I find myself, I think, doing different things, which is pretty cool. I just feel like it's refreshing, and I feel like a new person, and I feel like just the trajectory of my life has shot up to kind of another level. over the past 3.5 years. So to kind of start to see results that just happen in life, as a side effect of not drinking anymore, you're like, oh, maybe there's something to this. And that's really the reason that I haven't gone back to it. I mean, just seeing the benefits of not doing it. The reason I stopped is I wasn't feeling very healthy at the time. I mean, we just had gone through a year of COVID or what have you, and we used to wake up and have a beer for breakfast kind of thing. So I started to get out of shape, and you're not leaving the house. And I'm like, I need to take a month off of this and try to dial things back in. And a month passes, and I remember actually hopping on the scale, and I weighed the exact same, right? Because now I'm eating everything. So I'm like, I need to do another month. So then I do that. And then after another month, I'm starting to feel pretty good. And I hop on the scale, and I'm 5 pounds lighter. I'm like, okay, well, I needed to go another month. And then I was another 5. And then I was like, well, I'm going to get under 200 pounds, which is what I played at, like 185, right? So now I was 230 pounds. So now after 3 months, I've lost 10 pounds. And I'm like, I'm going to go till I get under 200 pounds. Well, by the time that happened, it'd been over a year, and then I got to a point where all of a sudden I start to see these health benefits and this weight loss and kind of this light bulb turn on in my head and this focus. Part of what came out of that as well was like, what's next for me? Like, if Nick Bootland moves on, or if we lose our jobs, what am I doing next? So then I started to have this extreme focus on that. And then Nick did move on, and I think that prior to that, I wouldn't have felt confident to try to even be in this position of head coach and director of hockey operations. And then just by chance, I end up being alcohol free for however long it was, and have started to make the gains that I needed to in life to try to be ready for the opportunity that, you never know when is going to come. So that's kind of how that path went. And now I'm, like you said, 3.5 years into that, and hope to keep leveling up in life and business.
I call those like God winks, meaning
Yeah.
like it all aligned. Like I don't know that that's a coincidence, right? Like, Nick was here for a long time. Obviously, you and I both worked with Nick for a long time. He coached you. You were also teammates together. And I believe that we are exactly where we're supposed to be in some of these big life decisions we make. And my story was similar in the sense that I was like, I need to take 30 days off from drinking. And I thought I'd go back to moderating. Like, surely I can moderate. It wasn't my first time I didn't like my relationship with alcohol, flat out. I just didn't like it. And we were in the middle of COVID, and I'm like, I have an opportunity here. We're not playing because we weren't playing that season. And like you said, there was so much up in the air. We didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm like, I have this opportunity to either, continue to drink like I want to, or I can make changes. And so I decided to make changes, and the best decision, and what has come from that by releasing this one thing has just exploded in all these other areas. And it's so cool that you and I are doing that together. It's part of our identities, but it's just one facet of who you and I are, but that we share that in common, and then we do what we do for a living. And oftentimes we're in the same towns, depending if I travel to where we're playing. And like we were in Newfoundland together. We were in a lot of cities together. And
Yeah.
And I always know I have someone there that doesn't drink. And I don't find it hard anymore, but it's always nice to know, like when we all go out to dinner or whatever, I'm like, well, I know there's one person at the table, and it'll be Joel that's not drinking. So
yeah, I mean, strength in numbers that way. And people always say, show me your friends and I'll show you who you are. And it's just funny who your friends become, that way. But just even relationship wise with my wife and kids and friends, and I just feel like it's all gotten better, to be honest. And even when it's like, well, I'm going to go stop for a beer after work or something, like, not a big deal, right? But now, no, you're going home, and now that's extra hour or two with your kids or wife, or so just small things that add up over a period of time when you're like, okay, wow.
Yeah, it's all worth it. It's so cool, and congratulations to you, because it is not easy in the world we live in, let alone just being in the alcohol-soaked American culture that we are in.
Sure.
So Now, this was something big you changed your mind about, was alcohol and the role it played in your life. Have you changed your mind about anything else recently?
I mean, man, I think like perfectionism is something that I probably struggled with, as a player and as a young coach. You always want everything to be perfect, but it's not attainable, right? I mean, we can strive for it. But at the end of the day, like as a coach, there's two sides to that coin where one, you have players that might be struggling with that and feel like they have to be perfect. And I think that can be detrimental to their success and their confidence as athletes because nobody's perfect. It's a game of mistakes. And then as a coach, like, I think we're more in the relationship business, than anything. So not always spending all your time, trying to do video and come up with the perfect plan and tactics. I mean, yeah, there's a ton of work that goes into having a plan in place and being prepared, but it's not the be all end all for sure. And I think that's something as a coach that I've started to kind of grasp a little bit and, try not to fall into that trap of I'm going to be perfect. I'm going to have everything covered and teach everybody everything.
I learned recently that perfectionism can be addictive.
Yeah.
And because there's a reward if we, in the brain, right? It's all tied to the brain. And I'm fascinated by the brain and how it works. But the reward, the chemicals that are released, like dopamine and all those things, when we've achieved what our definition of perfectionism is, boy, that's hard to say.
Yeah.
And dopamine wants more dopamine. And it's like, oh, I want more of that. And anyways, it's fascinating, and I think it's really awesome that that's something you're working on because that's really hard because you are measured by wins and losses.
Yeah. 100%. Right. And, I think at the end of the day, though, like, hockey's hockey, but you need players that and staff that want to work with you, work for you, and work for each other. So I think the relationship side of it is just as big.
Yeah. So we're coming up to the end. How would you say you lift other women up? What are some things that you do? I mean, I know I'm in direct benefit of it. You were lifting Caroline up as you're talking about her flower business. Tell everyone the name of her flower business so they can go find it.
Goldie Grows.
Goldie Grows. It's on social media. It's fabulous. She will bring flowers to Kelly and I. They're beautiful. So check that out. But how do you lift women up, Joel?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I just try to be open, an open person that is open to women in any role, yourself as a general manager, Mariah Fujimagari as a goaltender, Jessica Campbell is an assistant coach in the National Hockey League now. There's multiple skills coaches, assistant general managers in the NHL, and being open to that, that they can do those jobs and giving opportunity when it's warranted as well. But yeah, just trying to be open and lift people up, no matter what sex they are.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, right? It's just about being a good human being. So
yeah.
And you definitely fall into that category, and you're not a weirdo. Although you can do splits like an MFer. You can
It's
still
getting
do
harder and harder. It's
You
getting
can do
harder.
center splits, regular splits.
I think the center's gone now.
You do?
I do, but regular is fine. I don't know about the center anymore.
It's because you're over 40 now.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh, but yeah, no, you're definitely, as I said, one of my faves, and I really mean that. And thank you so much for coming on my little passion project here and being a part of it. And it just really means a lot to me. And I know we're going to work together for many more years to come. And who knows what's going to happen. And we'll keep doing what we do. So thanks for being awesome.
Sure. Well, thank you, for all you do. And, it's an honor to be on here. And I know you'll do a great job at it. You have done a great job already, and everything you do seems to turn to gold. So keep going with it. It's been an honor.
Yeah, well, thanks. We'll make gold together. We're going to get a Kelly Cup. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah, yes, we are.
Yeah, next year, our 50th anniversary season. So, and any listeners, I didn't know how many listeners I'd have. I'm coming up on 500 downloads, Joel.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it used to be a joke. Like when I had my husband on, I had no listeners.
Yeah, I did hear him throw in that little chirp.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh boy, buddy, you're sleeping on the couch tonight.
Yeah. And you don't tell someone like me I'm not going to have many listeners because guess what? So it'll be exciting. So for those of you who are listening to us, because my cool like podcast, I have a production, Tim Heimbaugh, who works behind the scenes, he produces this podcast too, and we've got listeners from all over the world. And all over the United States, because I have friends in all different places. So if anyone ever wants to come to a Kalamazoo Wings game, I will, and if you in particular have an affinity to meet Joel, I would be happy to take you down the coach's room, and I'll set up with you, Joel, first, and so you can meet and see kind of what we do. So if even one person takes me up on that, I'll comp you a ticket. So we'll see what happens.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Joel. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.